Arcane Season 2 has ended and I know we all have that empty feeling, and then on top of that they kill off Jinx and not give her the happily ever after we all wanted. But did she really die? What is the future of Arcane? Where is Mel going and for what purpose? Why is this crow everywhere? Sit back, get some popcorn, I will blow your mind with this video. The ending of Arcane was very emotional, a lot of deaths and honestly a lot of information to take in. We see Jinx jumping in to save Vi from Warwick, which leads to the most unexpected moment of the whole series, which was her sacrificing herself. But I don't think that is the case. I believe she is still alive for a few different theories. Firstly, when Vi and Jinx are fighting double steroid Warwick, the dude is like a tank, man. He is taking all of Jinx's machine gun bullets and her rockets. So how on earth is a tiny ass hand grenade going to be what kills him? Now I know what someone can say, yes Hash, maybe Warwick survived, but how does that end up with Jinx not dying? Well, the scene where Singed is using Warwick's blood on Viktor, you can see that his memories of being Vander are erased little by little. However, when Jinx touched Warwick before their impact, you can see him being able to remember himself as Vander. It almost shows Warwick as calming down when touched by Jinx's hand. I believe that will trigger the Vander instincts to come out and he will be able to save Jinx as a result of this. So why did Jinx not show herself at the end if she is alive? Well, it could be Warwick running away with Jinx, but I believe she is the one on the blimp at the end of episode 9. And I will explain this at the end of my Why Jinx is Alive segment. Second theory as to why she is alive. If you look at the frames in these pictures, it looks almost like a pink color escapes before the explosion. That can be either representing Jinx or the usage of shimmer by Jinx, and is going towards pipes, which could be what Jinx uses to escape. Also, at the end of episode 9, we see Caitlyn going through the Kiraman secrets again, and it looks like she's adding the notes of Jay's talisman in there as a sign of respect for him helping her bloodline's history. Cute little scene to be honest, but if you look carefully, it looks like the architecture of the tower they were all fighting in. And if you pay attention to when she scrolls down, you can see a lot of pipelines. I believe that is another hint that Jinx will use these pipelines to escape death, hence making her alive. The third reason as to why Jinx is alive is that Jinx won't be the Jinx from this universe, but the powder from the universe Ekko and Heimerdinger got transferred to. Also, side note, I initially thought that my boy Heimer got happy ending staying in the other universe, but no, he was disintegrated and died. So I guess he's dead for sure? Oh well, he was boring. Powder from this second universe will come to the other universe. How and why will she do this? Well, she knows for sure that Ekko is from a different universe because she literally saw him teleport. I believe she will come through the same way Ekko had left. And it is possible since she helped Heimer and Ekko build the machine. And we see her keep the Hextech orb safe too, which could imply will she use them later on? So why would she come to the other universe? Well, it's obvious. She really liked the new Ekko she met. They kissed and fell in love in a very short ass time. So maybe she wants to go to the other universe to meet the new Ekko. Or she might feel confident her sister Vi is alive. And the desire to see her is very high. The scene where her and Ekko are speaking, we can see that Ekko has no clue, and at first, she takes it as disrespect. I'm sure Jinx can put 2 and 2 together as to why he was so confused about Vi dying. And obviously you see the scene where he shows her the artwork. She must be thinking, how does he know what she looks like very old? Therefore, Jinx knows that Vi is most likely alive in Ekko's universe. And I also think that Jinx could be the only one in her universe to do all the research in Hextech, especially as Heimer's no longer there, and we don't know for sure about Jayce or Viktor, but going off of their past, Jayce in season 1 is close to offing himself and or he could be in prison for illegally researching Hextech. And without Hextech or Shimmer, we can presume Viktor would have died from his medical issue. And we keep on being told that Jinx has a lot of potential, so no one knows, but maybe it's being a genius. Also, in the conversation between old Viktor and Jayce, he tells him that all other variations of stopping Viktor had failed. Kinda like when Doctor Strange tells Iron Man that for him to stop Thanos, there's only one possibility in all the multiverse. If that is true, then Powder's universe should also eventually lose to Arcane Viktor. Therefore, she could try and escape her universe in an attempt to survive. Those are my theories on why Jinx is still alive, but let's say she is alive. Why is she in hiding? I believe she has a lot of guilt over Isha. And she felt like her guardian, but of course was not able to protect her. She also does not feel she's earned the right to stay in Piltover due to her past, and Zorn because of Isha's death. So she goes traveling to look for a new journey. That is why I believe she will be the person controlling the airship. And in season 1 of Arcane, at the end of episode 1, you see a young Powder saying, "I will ride one of those airships one day." And that's probably a foreshadow for the end of season 2. My favorite scene in Act 3 of Arcane was the beginning of episode 8, when Mel and LeBlanc talk to each other. So much happens and there's so much to theorize from, But firstly, let's talk about the disguise LeBlanc is using. I spoke about this in my Mel video where I mentioned that the girl Ambessa breaded was actually a clone of LeBlanc, and it felt like it was a test of some sort. I thought that because when Mel slams Kino's head against the wall, he becomes many people like Elora, Ambessa, etc. And one of them is the girl from the Wolf and Fox story. And I knew it was important as Ambessa, before breading the girl, she says she is a follower of the old regime, and the old regime implies LeBlanc, but I'll get to that later on in this video. I'm actually going to pause the video here and give a big history lesson on Noxus, as the knowledge is relevant to the full scene. The story of Noxus begins from its first self-proclaimed king called Shan Azul. He was a powerful warlord who conquered most of Runeterra. He was obsessed with glory and always thought that the day he dies he would be honored in a hall of fame / bones with the gods. But when he dies, he goes to a wasteland, kinda like a death realm. This really pissed him off, and instead of accepting death like a normal person, he believes that the only reason he did not get into the Hall of Legends is because he did not conquer enough of Runeterra. So he literally refused death. And during something called the Darkin War, he gets brought back from the death realm but only comes back as a ghost with armor. So at this point, he was no longer a mortal man, so he renamed himself as Mordekaiser. Dude went on a crazy conquering the world streak and creates himself a fortress known as the Immortal Bastion, which is the current capital city of Noxus. And side note, Noxus does not exist right now. Under Mordekaiser, he had a small group of super powerful mages. One of the mages amongst them was someone known as the Pale Lady, aka LeBlanc. She hated Mordekaiser, and she could not stand someone being more powerful than herself, so she actually wanted to get rid of him. But she knew, in a 1v1 he is too powerful for her, so she looked for a strategy. It was to find a man in a Noxy tribe known as Vladimir. Vladimir is a blood-horny, blood magic dude. He was the prince of a kingdom called Camavor but was given away as a royal hostage to an unknown Darkin. And the deal was take the prince and leave the kingdom alone kind of deal. Side note, Darkins were these ex-powerful ascended warriors from a place called Shurima. They got corrupted and into blood magic and are evil warmongers in basic terms. The Darkin who taught Vladimir helped him learn all sorts of tricks such as hemomancy, which is blood magic. The Darkin thought that Vladimir would always be loyal to him, which he was and he wasn't, since Vladimir at the same time was always learning ways to kill him. And eventually Vladimir does kill the Darkin, and he absorbs the powers of the Darkin. So now Vladimir is more or less immortal, and one of the strongest non-god characters in Runeterra. This is why LeBlanc approached him, as she knew he is the only one capable of helping her to beat Mordekaiser. When LeBlanc speaks to Vladimir, they acknowledge each other as mutuals, and Vladimir's on board with taking down Mordekaiser. They together attack the Immortal Bastion and are able to cut Mordekaiser's source of power, which are the souls he absorbs. And accomplishing this allowed them to seal Mordekaiser. And it's really important we notice that they couldn't beat him, but only sealed him, as Mordekaiser is just him. And side note, we later find out that Mordekaiser kinda allowed them to seal him and is currently waiting to return to Runeterra. Dude's a menace. After Vladimir and LeBlanc's first successful mission, they're on a high, knowing they are strong as cheese and no one can really mess with them. So this is where they form something called the Black Rose. And they are both co-leaders of this organization. The Black Rose was loving life being head of the Immortal Bastion. They were expanding their influence over Noxy. Yes, it was called Noxy, not Noxus yet. Until they obtained something called the World Runes. These were the runes the gods of Runeterra used to form the planet Runeterra. I mean, it's in the name. But the greedy people of Noxus did not use these runes for anything but evil. The runes got into the hands of many different groups who then caused insane destruction amongst each other. Like literally a lot of civilizations were wiped from these rune wars. Eventually the rune wars were stopped due to a person named Rise and his master Tyrus. After the wars, Vladimir returned to the Immortal Bastion, and this is how the nation of Noxus formed. All the old groups that were fighting etc. all came under one nation and accepted this. And this is how Noxus was created. Noxus had a goal to take over all of Runeterra and conquer everyone under their banner. And honestly, I know Noxians sound like villains, but their ruling was kinda fair too. Everyone was allowed to pursue anything, meaning anyone can be a general in wars etc. So it was oddly harsh treatment for everyone, but it was done equally at least. It's also worth knowing that the Black Rose are not known to the public of Noxus, and they kinda work in the shadows and pull all the strings of the emperors. Let's skip some time, and eventually a man known as Borum Darkwill is now in power of Noxus. He is the Emperor. He starts off alright and is a good puppet to the Black Rose. However, over time, he starts to have his own agendas and does not like taking orders from anyone. This obviously annoyed LeBlanc, and she comes up with possibly the most 200 IQ or crazy plan ever to overthrow Darkwill. She goes to a young nobleman known as Swain and anonymously tells him that her and the Black Rose intend to overthrow Darkwill. Swain, a loyal general to Noxus, obviously did not want this to happen, so he ensures all plans to overthrow Darkwill are crushed. And how does he do this? He literally goes on an execution spree, breading anyone who has any ties to the Black Rose and the plan. Even nobles who were corrupted by the Black Rose, including his parents. Yes, Swain really loved Noxus more than anything. He even executes LeBlanc, but it's not the real one, as she just throws in a clone. One can ask, why? Why did LeBlanc do all of this? Well, she wanted Darkwill to believe the Black Rose does not exist any longer and that she is no longer alive. LeBlanc loves working in the background, and she knew Darkwill was becoming paranoid as he aged. And this was true, as he becomes obsessed with living forever. Like, dude wanted that more than anything. So what did LeBlanc do? She started controlling his mind to believe that there is some rare artifact in a nation called Ionia that can let him live forever. Darkwill, for this artifact, literally starts a war with Ionia, and it's quite sad as he knows Ionia is a peaceful nation, but he just doesn't give a Swain is sent to fight for Noxus because LeBlanc convinced Darkwill to send him, with the assumption he would end up dying in the war. As Swain goes to fight in Ionia, he succeeds. Well, I mean, Ionia does not even have a real army to fight back. But eventually, there is a group in Ionia led by Irelia, who's able to damage Swain by cutting his legs and arm. Swain is at a dying point. However, as he's about to die, he sees a raven. Not just any raven. This raven makes eye contact with Swain and allows him to see the truth. Swain sees how LeBlanc is running the scenes with Darkwill again and how she forced Swain into the war so he could die. But what triggered him most is how Darkwill went to war for personal greed and not for the benefit of Noxus. This raven was powerful enough to give Swain a second chance at life. So Swain did not die and was able to return to Noxus. However, when he returned, he was outcasted by the military and everyone treated him like a second-class citizen due to his injuries. This did not stop Swain's ambition. He used the Raven's eyes to go deep into the immortal bastion. And he does this to find a demon to which he wanted to control. The name of this demon was called Reem. He ends up finding Reem and gains the powers of Reem. And side note, in Runeterra, the demons are very strong. Even Mordekaiser had a few demons that helped him. So now Swain is super overpowered. And he had a goal to change how Noxus is controlled. So he organizes a coup. A plan to overthrow Darkwill and get rid of him. And he does exactly that, and within a few days, he is able to overthrow the old crazy Darkwill. Swain is now the Emperor of Noxus. He becomes this as when he's wanting to begin a coup, he gets the support of many houses and groups within Noxus by convincing them how crazy Darkwill is, and how his intentions are for the best of Noxus. He wasn't lying, and he doesn't use the help of the Black Rose, because he hates them. Swain then forms something called the Triferix. It is a three-way ruling system of Noxus. His logic was that if there is 3 factions that run Noxus, then if someone becomes greedy, they can be put in check by the other 2 factions. He forms 3 pillars. One pillar is called Vision, whose head is Swain. The second is Guile, who we believe is run by LeBlanc, but it's not actually confirmed. The final pillar is Strength, and the head is Darius. Swain picks Darius as he is now a general of the army, and he knows Darius is loyal to the idea of Noxus' success. And one more thing to mention is that Swain has crows which he can send to spy on wherever he wishes, and one of Swain's goals is to remove the Black Rose entirely. Especially as they sent a weapon called Briar to fight him during his coup, but Swain threw Briar in prison. She was easy for him to beat. So when Darkwill was in power, this is what Ambessa was referring to as the old regime, aka when LeBlanc had more power. The current Triferix is the new regime. This is what LeBlanc was testing to see where does Ambessa's loyalties lie. And it obviously was not with the Black Rose when she breaded the girl's head during the Wolf and Fox story. This is where I will stop the history of Noxus and now get back to Arcane and the scene where Mel and LeBlanc are speaking. LeBlanc says to Mel, we each have our own expressions. Why does she say we? And she keeps on referring to Mel as sister. At first I thought she was just speaking as Kino, but it's happened too often for it to be that. I believe that Mel has the powers of a mage who was in LeBlanc's mage group when she was under the rule of Mordekaiser. Why else would she say sister unless she was referring to someone in a group/coven? Now, I do not think Mel has been alive for over 1,000 years the way LeBlanc has, but she has been able to inherit the powers of a very powerful mage. This just means that Mel is crazy strong, and this is important for what Mel wants to do in the next show. When LeBlanc says to Mel that another calamity is coming, I believe she is aware of the return of Mordekaiser. One of LeBlanc's many goals has been preparing for his return, as she knows what he is capable of. That's why she refers to it as a greater threat. But the question is, does she want Mordekaiser to return with the hopes that she can control him? Or does she actually want to fight him with Mel's powers? It also makes me think, is Mel necessary in aiding LeBlanc against Mordekaiser? And you know what the cool yet annoying thing about LeBlanc is? We don't actually know her true cause or wants. We partially know everything. We know that she can make clones, and we know she is crazy strong and capable, but we don't even know what she looks like. And I'm gonna give a quick who's strong and who's not for my Arcane viewers. If there was a ladder on strength, I would argue that LeBlanc is stronger than everyone in Arcane. Except maybe full Arcane powered Viktor, but even then, I don't think he could even control her as she has clones everywhere. And Vladimir is more or less the same as LeBlanc in Runeterra, and I mean out of everyone, LeBlanc and Vladimir are at the top in terms of strength, just below the gods and celestials. So someone like Ambessa even challenging LeBlanc is ridiculous. Even with her runic stuff that stops magic, it will never ever be enough. And a little extra knowledge, when LeBlanc gives Mel the black rose necklace, she says, "Those untouched by the Arcane fear us." I'm sure people are still confused by what the Arcane really is, because I still was. Basically, she means non-magic users. In that context, the Arcane is just magic. So you could literally say those without magical powers fear us. My favorite part of the whole LeBlanc and Mel scene is when she's walking away. Notice how there is a lot of emphasis on a black crow. That is because that crow is Swain's bird. And it's interesting how our guy Swain is keeping tabs on everyone everywhere. He knows that LeBlanc is up to something, and I guess he's also aware of the capabilities of Mel, so he's keeping an eye on her too. Guys, I love Swain so much. Obviously, we know that Mel did not actually plan to stay in the Black Rose even though she wore the necklace, as she betrays LeBlanc when LeBlanc kills Ambessa. So what does Mel now want? Well, at the end of the show, we see her taking over the Medada clan. And in that scene where the ships are heading somewhere, I'm pretty sure they are heading to Noxus. And their goal has to be to take down the Black Rose. And another one of Mel's goals is probably to like and subscribe to this video. So I believe Mel hates the Black Rose too, and once again, in the ship's traveling scene, we see Swain's crow again. Maybe this time Swain wants to team up with Mel, because he's aware of her goals and they have a mutual interest. That would be so cool. And speaking of Ambessa dying, I am half certain that she's actually dead. Basically, there is a rule. If the character does not get a super obvious funeral, then are they really dead? I mean, do we not remember Caitlyn's mom? And I had a second theory, that maybe she did not die because the point where she died is the same point where Ekko reverses time for what looks like 8 to 10 seconds. And guys, I went back to the scene where he marks the 4th second and worked out, if the indicators in the timer mean the same amount in seconds, then he can only travel back a total of 12 seconds at a time. But yeah, about Ambessa being dead. My gut says she isn't dead, and I don't really have more than that. I had a hunch about Maddie too. That video is almost at 1 million views. People doubted my hunch then too. That's all I'm saying. And do we think Jayce is actually dead? And what about Viktor? I don't have anything to say about this. Let me know in the comments what you think. And I don't know if you have seen Attack on Titans, but Viktor was like Eren being in the past, future, and present all at once. Caitlyn's speech at the end was very important. When she is speaking, there is a point when she says, "And though we are doomed to revisit the error of our ways." And then the scene is Swain's bird. The bird looks like inside a broken building and sees a blue glow, which is more likely a hextech orb. That will be crucial for Noxus, as Swain will most likely now begin to research and understand hextech. And I want you to pay attention to the word revisit. Yes, it can imply that Swain has now found hextech, but I believe it foreshadows the future of Arcane even more. Probably not to your surprise if you made it this far, but the future show will be set in Noxus. And I say this because Mel is trying to get revenge on the Black Rose, and we see constant hints of Swain and obviously Ambessa's Noxus invasion on Piltover. But I don't think it will be a new cast, the main characters anyway. Due to what Caitlyn said about revisiting, I believe the cast Vi, Caitlyn and Jinx will be relevant in the Noxian show too. I know people are gonna be like, it doesn't make sense. And after what Caitlyn said and the blimp scene, I am convinced of this. So get ready for a lot more retconning of lore, my friends. I have a few more reasons as to why Noxus will be very interesting, and these are asides from the things I've said so far. Noxus is a warring nation. They have had big wars with Demacia, and for anyone interested, this is where characters such as Garen and Lux are from. I mentioned they had a war with Ionia too, and the champions from Ionia are the coolest by far, such as Yasuo and his half-demon brother Yone, and a champion called Riven who's running around with an enchanted blade, and it was enchanted by LeBlanc. Finally, there is many champions from Noxus I did not talk about, such as Elise and Cassiopeia, who also become kind of co-leaders of the Black Rose in the future. And more about the great General Darius. How did he even become a general? I didn't include any of that in this video to not sidetrack, but if you want a video on everything Noxus related, let me know in the comments. And guys, this is my final theory for Arcane, I think, unless I make another one. But I think right now this will be the last one. I want to thank you so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. I am recording this video at literally 4 in the morning, so this will be the outro. Thank you, love you, bye.